So, I know we should always see the positive side of things, right? And always see the happiness and look for the good things in life and not try and see the negative side of things. But that's, if you have to, it's like when you look at the moon and you've got the light shining on it. The whole point of the light in the dark is to be able to see what shape it is, because if you had light shining on all sides of it, you actually lose the definition of the shape and you can't actually see, you can't see it. You can't actually see what it is, you know? It's like if you're eating something that tastes nice that is actually bad for you, you can't actually see and identify that it's bad for you and it's causing you harm, because like you think it's good. So, you know, you have to... Now, a lot of people end up getting more ill and have afflictions later in life, you know? Whereas some people can actually retain health till quite late in life. You know, they might not need all of the family to look after them, to be tied up looking after them as much. Not that you shouldn't do that, it's a good thing. But, you know, many of the health issues, I believed, are ultimately down to eating too much and your body not repairing and healing itself as good as it should do. And we're not actually getting as much nutrients in his diets for the amount of, for what we eat. The proportion of sugars and fats is so much dramatically higher than what it should be for the proportions to minerals and vitamins. Now, I know that's going off subject a little bit, but trying to bring it back into context of this petition, right? We've all rammed wood, Warrior's Tomb, and then with all this, the last video that I did is to do with Kirk, you know? There is a Kirk tie-in, and there's no doubt, if it wasn't relevant to Huddersfield, right, why would it be Sir Patrick Stewart, right? It's relevant because of Sir Patrick Stewart, you know? And the thing is, there's some more things I want to add to the evidence, right? Besides Captain Kirkwood with the axe chopping the wood, you know, and it's got trees around round wood. And then I brought into it Kirkwood Hospice because, you know, it's named after, it's Kirkwood Hospice, right? There's a wood at Roundwood and it's Kirkeaton. Now, there's a George Haigh builder who built the houses on Warrior's Tomb. That George Haigh builders, I think he built Kirkwood Hospice because it's where the address of where he is, or he had something to do with it. Someone's built Kirkwood Hospice, and it's a massive complex, mainly, you know, looking after elderly or disabled people, right? And it's next to Roundwood, but it's all to do with disabled people and elderly people. Now, if you think of Sir Patrick Stewart in Kirkwood, he played Professor X, who's in a wheelchair, because they have Professor X. He's got all these mental abilities, but he's got physical disability. He's got all these psychic powers, like in the X-Men, Professor X, but then he sat in a chair and they ended up having Patrick Stewart. Now, we know that this peerage that we've got is behind all the movies. The peerage is behind a lot of what happens in the movies, planning movies, deciding what movies get done, because they own a lot of the companies and pulling a lot of the strings. Now, with this Kirkwood Hospice, the thing is, I know that it's you know, charities are for good, and we know that, you know, a lot of money is given to charity, but it's still for people who've got a disability. And I think that it's associated with that Warrior's Mound and the Brigantes and the people associating a disability with them, I believe. And when we've been given bad diets and food, we actually end up with physical disabilities later on in life, you know? Now, as for myself, I don't really want to give this evidence, but I think it's important to mention it, right? Because, you know, there are a lot of people in the world, right? And, you know, there are lots of people with lots of different abilities and lots of skills, you know, and everyone should be, you know, respected and you know, appreciated for that. But what I've noticed, I need to say this because it's important, right, is that the first house that we lived in Murfield, right, when we moved away from that house, right? Because my dad wanted to start his own business. Mysteriously, the people who moved in after us fitted a disability rail to the wall. It's got like a disability thing on the outside of the house since after we left, right? And then the other weird thing is, after we lived at the other side of Murfield for a number of years, oddly enough, we lived in a bigger house, in sort of like a larger house with a bit of land next to it. Like it was like a bungalow, but he still had sort of like an upstairs in the attic. When we moved away from that house, a disabled person bought it, and all of it, they were quite disabled because there was a lot of they made a lot of changes to it, for disability access and things like that on it. So that got converted disabled as well, which is really weird, right? And now when we're here, right, now we're over in Huddersfield, it is, what ended up happening, I don't know how it happened or what time it started to happen, but I did a competition and I did really well in it. And then really weird things started to happen. Like this American guy wanted to come over, and he was like this international tax expert. He helps people who've got business, huge companies, like people like Elon Musk and people like that, Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos to do tax loopholes and things like that, which is really, really weird. And then, like, this American guy came over and he's wanting to spend loads of time here, and I didn't really understand. I don't know. It was really weird. He moved away from his wife and things like that, and he was only here for a few months, because I just thought, like, what the hell's going on? It's like, yeah, it's all right to, it's cool to be friendly to people and have friends, right? But when somebody moves over from another country and then they just kind of drop themselves there and they kind of, then it's suddenly the whole of your life. It's almost like nearly close to it is if you're going to get married to someone, well, if you get married to a woman, obviously. But and then it was just so. I didn't think it was normal. I thought it was kind of weird, and I'm like, just a minute, what's happening? So then we ended up having an argument, and then he left. So I didn't intend for it to go wrong or not, but it just kind of felt weird. And then that's when some other weird things started happening, and we went to this party, and then this was around 2000, sort of June, July, sort of April, May, June 2010, I think. And then that's when I just noticed things were going, there were certain things that were, I just had a strange feeling. And then that's when I ended up doing some music, and then things just went wrong, and then I ended up sort of getting ill, through just an unfortunate incident, and then that's when. But then I was sort of all right, and went back to work, and then that's when all the speed camera things started kicking off. Because everyone gets points from speed cameras and things like that. But I was traveling around the whole country for my job for most of my life, and I enjoyed traveling around and seeing everywhere, because I got to see the whole country, and I like to see what's going on and see all the different places around the country. Really, I spent most of my life surveying the country to see what it's like, and then this instead of just like usual, you just do your fine and whatever. Because of things that have been on the radio and things like that, I decided to look into it, because I didn't think that. I thought there was something wrong with it, and what I found is I did a proper investigation, and I found that there was a lot of things wrong with it, and it actually a lot of it was set up unlawfully and misleading, and I thought people were being taken advantage of, and that's when I started doing some campaigning and petitioning, and then that's when Extinction Rebellion and Banksy and other people, they all started protesting and kicking off as well. And then we ended up with all these lockdown and things like that. But that's 10 years then. That's another 10 years. It's like 1 year, then 2 years, then 3, 4. I was investigating that for quite a while. and next it takes a while to do it, and then now we've ended up in this situation where everyone were locked down, and now we've got, Anonymous is confirming our suspicions that, even a lot of the film companies making movies, all these food companies, the media, it's all being orchestrated by these same people behind the scenes. And now I've been looking at our ancient sites and heritage locally, because obviously I haven't been driving. I've been sort of stuck in the local area. I found out about our heritage and what's happened to his heritage sites. Have actually been attacked with this like D Street on, and it correlates to actual. It does. There's evidence that we've been attacked, and who else would it be? I mean, who is behind the speed cameras? And speed cameras been dodging the police. It's who's in charge of the police and military. It's other peerage. Who's in charge of, historical and the archaeological societies giving them money and funding. It's the same thing. It's the peerage behind it, and I think that there's some. I believe our area, Huddersfield, because it would have been Brigantes. I believe, and particularly because it's civil war with the Roundheads versus Royalists, I actually think that there's some serious underlying issues between dislike of certain areas and people because of the history and disfavour. I mean, why have they put the disability Kirkwood all around the Warrior Mound, And it's not just me. I've noticed other people have suffered ill events and very unlucky events. Like my mate, I've got a mate from Lake District, and his brother ended up actually, something happened to him, and he all his nervous system went funny, and he ended up actually dying. And then there's someone else that I know. Actually, it happened around the same time to me. They were really good at sports. They were actually really good at skateboarding, like really, really, really good. And then they ended up having some weird incident, and they ended up putting loads of weight on, and then they couldn't do it anymore. They still managed to do it, and I think they've got like a teacher training thing now, but they're not as good as what the potential was. When you're driving, the people don't go out and say, right, I'm going to have an accident, right, I want to cause some injuries. People go out because they want to go to work, people go out working and they want to travel around, people don't want to damage the vehicle and things like that. A lot of people have got a lot of good skills in driving and could be very good at it, and when you get good at something, you want to do it more efficiently and better, and it only seems the police who are allowed to do that. But then they say, oh no, it's dangerous, but well, why do the police do it? I think drivers have been picked on and made to look bad and criminal, and they've got this whole the whole philosophy behind, persecuting. It's not right, because there's normal people going about normal business. And a lot of the areas have been set up to be misleading, like being tricked. There's something going on where I think individuals who might have potential to be good or doing good, I'm not like trying to show off and say me or anything like that, because there are loads of different people, but I think certain people have been targeted, and it ain't just me. I've noticed other people as well, and certain areas that there's something not right. And I'm not making it up. It's not a figment of my imagination. Everything that I've seen that is not right, that's going on, that there's something seriously defective with it. I've got hard evidence for it. With the heritage, with people going about the normal business, and with people who've got skills. And then other people seem to be, I'm not saying like jealous or anything of that, because when your life's going okay and you're quite happy, you've got no reason to be too, bothered about what other people are doing. But it's certain people who ended up getting selected for the names. Like, it's Usain Bolt. I mean, where's he come from? I'm not saying that some people aren't talented, but it always seems to be with these certain puns and names that work out to be some sort of laugh or joke or comedy from the point of view of this peerage or royal pool that's behind it, like when they got Graham Norton. It's like internet security Norton getting into Ireland, but it's Graham Norton, and it's the Norton putting the Norton like O'Neill or O'Shane or O'Malley, Graham Norton. It's the way they pick them, the way they choose them. And then you've got all that Merriman evidence that I've got from the names being changed in Ireland, taking the noughts off and all that. And then you've got all the whole, when Christianity spread out, and there's a lot of histories lost and things like that, and not all knowledge to do with the religions and things like that. I mean, important knowledge to do with, mankind. See, it's to do with the history of mankind and evolution of mankind. There are religious aspects to it, but there are other aspects to it too. What it comes down to is the whole subject and topic is, it is like the rulership. That's what it is. Now, in America, they've got a president and they have the Declaration of Independence, and they've got a president. They have a royal family. In Australia, they've got a president, and in Canada, and in Germany and Russia, which were the main, and France, which were the main European countries, they don't have any more. But it's only ours we've got here. And when that anonymous evidence comes through that they pretty much own everything behind all the companies and the shares, and they're pulling certain strings, who else would it be? Who else would it be who might have grudges against certain people? I think that, and when I think the BBC used to do a programme about the royals, and they used to do sports, play tennis and things like that. I think that they've got issues with people who are talented and got talents, and I know that they give awards and they give you get knighthoods and all these SMB, you get all these awards. But the thing is, it tends to be ones that they choose and they select. You know what I mean? There's some sort of. I mean, what happened to John Lynham when he's with all that, God Save the Queen and all the whole fascist regime? The next thing he ends up, he's a total rebel, and then he ends up sort of being persuaded over to this money and finance side, and then he's always going, no, I'll invest my money properly and all this, and then the next thing is, he's like putting loads of weight on, and you go to all these posh restaurants, and he's sort of gone over to that side. He's not like, he wasn't the rebel that he started off being. There's something going on. And I know the police, there's a very dark and sinister side to the police, very dodgy and sketchy. It's to do with incidents and accidents. And they're not all legitimate ones. There's some, now that vehicles can be controlled, and this is why people are worried about all this technology coming in, not driving anymore, being controlled, and all these schedules and timetables being possibly altered. There's something not right about it. There are legitimate and honest incidents and accidents which are unhappy and sad, but it's not just that. It's the fact they're wanting to bring in more security and more surveillance. Why? We never needed security and surveillance before. Why do they want it? If you have, and it's the things like that. Ciaran Morrissey in from Sunderland, the Lib Dem, and then you get that accident with that little Ciaran when the opposition are doing good, the Lib Dems. There's some things that are not quite right, and it seems that it's always the thing that leads to, it's the reason, an excuse, what leads to more and more security and more control, and then they've got more and more say when they've already got power over everything, over what, but they're not doing the food isn't very good, but people don't understand that because of how it's been dressed up with the packaging and the design of it and how it's presented. They're trying to make it look appealing, there's this, and this is, it's to do with health and everything like that, I think there are certain people with certain abilities who can find out what these people are doing and understand it and know that they're doing something wrong and they're cheating and they're breaking the rules, or their own rules that they're making. Like Boris is cheating and lying. And then when people start taking political action, He's saying, oh, no, I'd have to debate petitions. And then you can't petition about this or that. And then when you find out, when you look at the law and read the law, well, they're wrong. And they're just lying. And like in the Criminal Damage Act 1971. And they've also written into the law that actually when you read the act, if they've got the privilege and a right and an interest, then they can actually cause injury to people or incident or accident, even if it might be dangerous or cause harm. They've written it into themselves for the law, you know. But when you actually take some action and try and do something and take the law up to prove it, and we're supposed to be protected, that's like the Bill of Rights, not even the Criminal Damage Act, the Bill of Rights. You can't even prosecute at all. Then, you know, they're not wanting to give you it. They're not wanting to grant you that right. And then all the platforms are locked down, and it ends up being Sir Nick Clegg. It's Sir Nick Clegg, who's another one like, you know, Sir Keir Starmer. And then it's the name again. And Kia are one of the main contracting companies doing all the roads with the police and building loads of things like houses. One of the main companies that are being controlled by the peerage pulling the strings. And it's the name, Kia. Oh, no, you don't do anything bad against Kia. You don't prosecute Kia because Keir Starmer, and he's leading CPS. There's a it's just like on Star Wars, like with the Sith. That's what it's like. It is like that. And there are these dodgy things going on, and people some people, they don't realise it, or they're in their own focus and concern. Like Extinction Rebellion could help, but Extinction Rebellion know that the government are cheating and lying because they are. Extinction Rebellion know that, but Extinction Rebellion are that focused on the planet's environment and the temperatures and all this, and you know, people in other countries, that they don't realise that we're being hindered here and we're not getting on with each other here to coordinate properly and work together properly, and we can't help everyone else when we're being hindered here because we're actually, that's why we're not succeeding, because we're being hindered, you know. Even local people now, just people in a local area who want to stop something being done, want to stop some houses being built or something, you know, they it all seems to go right. When one of the councillors wants to do it, one of the councillors from these Tory parties wants to do it, it all seems to go right and come together, and then a massive group of people come together. But when it's something that the actual local people want to oppose, but you don't get any help from it, you can't use Facebook properly, it's not working properly, things are disappearing, or you can't actually contact everyone, or none of the councillors come in and help. There's serious issues, you know, and I think that there's entity behind the scene, which is behind the reasoning behind it and the cause behind it. And I think that Anonymous is right, because that's what my findings in proper legitimate investigation, the conclusions and the evidence point to that. They point to attack on heritage. Who would it be? It was King George signed this Huddersfield Corporation deal and took it off the Liberals off Ramsden. But then we ended up getting Imperial Chemical Industries. That is the force that is behind our area getting built up and on that site, right? And then you get all of this Captain Kirk. But this Kirkwood and having a disability, you know, and then like the weird things that happened to me with those houses that we've been in, it's almost like someone's putting a hex on you, you know, like a hex, like jinxing you, or a hex. You know, now when I'm working on it now, that there's weird things happening, you know, like the bus board goes funny, and I've just been on the lottery. I'm trying to, like, playing the lottery, and then, like, this weird thing happened the other day when I'm not lying at all. When the lottery started, because we go in the lottery, I go in and talk to people in there, and when the video started, this weird edit bit came in, and this, like, BBC sort of looking guy appeared and then vanished again. You know, it definitely was there. So it's like being hacked or something. When I've been trying to get petition signatures, some of them have been going missing, and then on my computer I've lost some files for a list of all people. I think people actually support you and help you, and they want it to look like this entity behind the scenes. They want it to look like people aren't supporting you. What they don't like is when someone's opposing what they want to do, right? They don't like it when people actually come together, because that means the people are opposed to them. And they don't like it when the people are opposed to them, because they want the people to sing the national anthem and the people to, curtsy and bow, and the people to say they love them. But they'll never do that. Not 1/3 of them, because 1/3 don't vote, refuse to vote. You're never going to get that 1/3. Now, when the people who are opposed come together to do something, like you're not building houses here, Earl Dartmouth, right? Or, Kirklees Council, we don't want you to do this or that. There are it's not just me, there are lots of other people. Loads of other people who are having things done that want to oppose things, and it just doesn't come together because it's strategic. Then you get into the strategic planning. Right, they've done up the co-op in Armonbury, and then once they've done that, then the spring that they're going to change the King James School upgrade, and then they just do the streets, and then once the streets are done, then what they do is then, Earl Thingamy's going to build these houses, and then it's linked to HS2 and HS3, which is what they're bringing this railway line up the country, which there's protesters all up and down England. HS2 protesters on site all the way up England for this railway line opposing it. And Boris and these contractors have been trying to get rid of them, and not even grant them the full rights. And they were wanting to, since we were doing this, since I got all the evidence on the speed cameras and did this and that, then they started talking about all this Northern Powerhouse in the news, all of the ministers, all the Labour ones, who are the main problem, the Labour ministers like Barry Sheeman and people like that, and the Mayor of West Yorkshire. We don't want the Northern Powerhouse. Well, look at the state of London, it's a complete and total mess. Now they're trying to force these railway lines up and build more houses. They really want to finish the job off here with our area. The last bit of beautiful countryside we've got, and they're trying to finish it off now and totally blitz it and ruin it. That Warriors Mound, Warriors Tomb has had a hex put on it with that D. It's like D for Duns. It's off the Alex Hogg map. It's exactly on that Alex Hogg map. And why does it correlate with Imperial Chemical Industries? And why do they take land off Ramsden when we were solid Liberal, and then it mysteriously goes over to Labour for when they build on top of it. And now we've got this Tyler Hawkins guy swanning around in Dalton. This Tyler Hawkins guy's been trying to get into council for quite a while, and he's got in now. In the name Tyler Hawkins, they swoop in and just built tile the countryside, which is terrible. It's the strategy. What they've done with the road is the way they do the roadworks and plan works, they can direct noisy traffic and harass people. They've done Emily Moore Mast as well, and they've moved the planes over his house. And I've got a video to prove that. I put the video up, evidence for that. They've got certain methods and procedures where they can harass people, and then you ring the council up and complain, and the council say, oh no, it's just legitimate, we're doing it normally. But there's someone behind it. There's someone behind the scenes influencing it. And when they're doing they're wanting to bring cycle lanes in now and everyone's not that keen on them. They're doing it in Ireland, They said in Ireland the statistics were that they wanted a dual carriageway, but, it wasn't in line with what the government prerogative was to not have dual carriageways put in. It was to bring more cycle lanes in and it just... The way they're doing these things is in a manner so you can't defend, you can't stop them. And you're not allowed, the council aren't allowed to influence the electors, it's illegal. But in more recent times, we've got these strategic planning, and the way they do it is, what is the strategy? It's not, it's going to be financially better. They're actually thinking and planning strategically, right, of how can they know the people are going to oppose them, so how can we get past that obstruction of opposition? That's what it is. So it's, how can we get this Armonbury upgrade and get it done strategically without, the locals stopping us? Well, the locals are meant to elect people to do what they want, not Her Majesty's government do what it wants. We're supposed to elect people for what we want. Now, what's happening is the Council of Strategic Planning are like, all right, and we want to do it with Huddersfield, regenerate it, do this one, and then what the strategic planning do is they do something so people don't notice what's going on, and then once they've done that, then they do the next step. It's like a war game, like a warboard. Each of these stages, and once you get to a certain stage, even though you've got a right to object, you think that, they've already knackered everything. So it's worming their way in. It's getting to a stage where then you'll lose the will. Then people are like, oh no, I know a woman in Murfield, that's Cheryl Tyler, who she opposed what they were doing there, and she put a lot of effort into it, and she got all parades and all these women together. Women are very good at pulling together to do stuff. I don't seem to find that it works too well. You've got to be, if you're female and if you're getting community projects together, they did it in Meltham. They tried to oppose the housing, but they didn't quite succeed because I don't think they made quite as much effort as that Cheryl did. But then when I was asking her if she could give some advice and help us out, then she's like, it drained her that much and it was that much stress that she didn't want to do it again. But like council's giving her an award. Oh no, she did well in an award. It's almost like, some competition. People don't want a competition in life. When you get up, go to work, come home, go out, do your stuff, then, go to sleep and you got a family and stuff, you ain't got spare time to battle the council in campaigns. Now, what the council is an entity that are paid to go in and do something. So it's their normal daily job is to strategically plan against you. And they're getting paid for it. And these companies sell houses and make profit on top of it. And they use the profit to do more projects. Now, they're actually making a profit and a gain and being paid to do that, right? So when you go out in your normal job and go to work, right, and then when you bought an house in an area you like, and when you got your own life, that means you have to take your spare time and your wind down time, your relaxation time, to actually battle against the council, this entity who are actually being paid for their job to strategically come and take over. It's like a war. We are at war with this entity behind this Vanguard and this BlackRock. We're at war. Like we're at war with Imperial Chemical Industries wanting to put a Hexagon's ancient site. We're at war against the Council Strategic Planning. It's actually illegal. When you find out what they're doing, how they're doing it with their media, it's more of a modern thing, strategic planning. But they've always had a strategy because they've done it with the Imperial Chemical Industries and all that. But it says that if anyone commissions anything for the council on roads and highways and building and planning, when they've got a profit or business interest in it, then they have to leave the position. But the thing is, it is the government, which is Her Majesty's local council, Her Majesty's government. What you find out is it's the ministers who have got the business interest in it. So they are the government stroke council. The local council is localcouncil.gov. The government is .gov, right? Now you find out David Cameron, Boris Johnson have got shares in things, and it ends out being some of these companies have got shares in, and these contractors that they're actually using in the strategic planning, right? So we're actually voting them in to represent us, but they're actually opposing us and making money out of it. We are actually at war. We are at war within this country with these corporations and businesses, and it's not just for good. It's like they're wanting to make money out of it and a profit and implement new devices and technology that's for control. Because we do want to and are opposing them. They wanted to take away his complete right to opposition. That's what they were trying to do. So you couldn't even have a right to oppose. Then you're not even electing in people to represent you at all. You haven't got no one representing you, and you can't even represent yourself at that stage. It's not right. It's like some military unit is He's dominating the place. A lot of it's illegal. And then you get into the peerage, but now you're bringing up the Criminal Damage Act. Well, we've got the privilege to do it in the right interest, and then they're saying they've got exclusive cognizance, they can't be prosecuted by jury, and then, but they're not allowed to have shares in businesses when all these contractors that are doing, cares, Balfour Beatty's Balfour Beatty, right? Now, the peerage of England shouldn't be if they want to have a company, then, make suitcases, right? Or, make, this or that. But what you end up finding out is that they're behind the foods that's got issues with health on us, and they want to make more money out of it. Chocolates, all these things, they're making money out of it, and then we're suffering the ill health. Many of them suffer ill health themselves, because I think they've got addictions themselves. And then all these contractors, they're making money out of it. Well, if you want to get a contractor prosecuted, right, how are you going to do that when they've been working with the police, doing the road signage illegal, yet they're not going to prosecute themselves, and then they're, doing the roads up in the area through strategic planning in the houses. Turns out being Earl Dartmouth behind it. They're making money out of it. Turns out, and then we've got Keir Starmer. We know exactly what's going on. We're being absolutely and completely dominated by charlatans and con men. And they're ones with very posh accents and very, very extensive vocabularies. Yet they're still criminal. And then get a lawyer. But it turns out now that all the law firms are owned by bigger law firms, and then they end up having the law firms, and then they price you out so you can't do anything. They're controlling the lawyers, even though all the lawyers were locked down in the lockdown. We've got serious issues. Very, very serious underlying issues. Why are we even at the stage when we've got, rich and poor people? Why isn't it more, evenly balanced across the spectrum? It's almost like, Warburton's bread. Who owns the Warburton's bread? It turns out to be all the peers that have got all the shares in it. And then we end up, getting ill health later on in life, and people having to look after us. It's all set up for misfortune. That there's something seriously wrong with the people behind who run this country and who rule it. Because I think they have got a disability. It's their disability. They're not able to do it. They're not actually competent or capable to do it. And that's the problem. And then we get these, blue disabled badges and all this, more hexes. It's the serious issues. Really, really serious issues. And I believe there's evidence for this. Because it correlates right. I don't think that Kirkwood Hospice are bad people. I think they're like the people work there who are kind and look after people. But it's the strategic planning behind it. How did it get there and what it means? And this Kirkwood. Then we've got George Gigg, the builders. It's not the actual... Well, the councillors I think the councillors sort of have an idea of what might be going on. But I think there's someone's been messing with the computers at the council and files like what's been happening on my computer and certain decisions, things like that. But then this is when you get the Criminal Damage Act. Because according to that, if they've got a right privilege and interest, it doesn't matter if they cause harm to computer system according to them, But when we try to use that act, we're not allowed to use it. And then they're trying to bring this policing bill instead for Extinction Rebellion, There's serious issues going on, And something needs to be done about it. And this is why we need a change in government, a change in governance.